Welcome back to MMA Al Dente, where everybody knows your name and they're always glad you came. Here at MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk about Austin Vanderford versus Nikolay Veretetnikov. My prediction for this fight is Veretetnikov wins, and I've got him winning by TKO. And I haven't bet on him yet, even though the odds are razor thin. It's a toss up. And that's because I'm waiting to bet on him winning by TKO. Having said that, I will look to hedge with Austin Vanderford winning by points. I'm very sure for each guy, that's their primary path to victory, a TKO and a decision. Austin Vanderford's the better wrestler and overall grappler. He's definitely a dangerous grappler, but I do think his best course of action in this fight is slowing it to a crawl with his wrestling. And I think I'd be surprised if he won this fight by any way other than decision. For Veretetnikov, same thing. I'd be very surprised if he won by any other way but knockout. For him to be winning a decision, of course, he's got to win the majority of a 15-minute fight. And I don't think that's too likely because, in general, I just have doubt in Austin Vanderford's ability to be the nail. And that's really the basis for the prediction with Veretetnikov getting a TKO. Austin Vanderford's only lost twice, and they're both forgivable losses against excellent fighters and up at middleweight. But I still, in general, didn't like the way he looked. Far be it from me to criticize a fighter getting TKO'd, but in general, I think he was a little psyched out, certainly against Musasi, and against Aaron Jeffrey, he was definitely hit with a big shot, but even that, it was like he kind of welcomed it and was waiting on it after they broke off from the clinch. And I just feel like maybe he's been a little psyched out himself. And since these two losses, which were in consecutive fights, he's only had 1 minute of fighting where he jabbed a 50-year-old and then put him away on the ground in a minute. So he hasn't had a chance to showcase his grit since then. But it's not like he's a dog shit fighter. He's a guy with a lot of promise, and he's still beaten many good fighters along the way. His best win is certainly against Fabian Edwards. Fabian Edwards is an excellent fighter over in Bellator, and he was able to beat him by decision. A lot of that was with ground control, where he slowed the fight to a crawl, but it worked. And Fabian, he's not the most dangerous guy on the feet. That's Leon Edwards' brother, by the way, if you don't know. But yeah, he's still an incredible striker, like Leon, but definitely not Mr. Danger. And I think that was part of the reason why Austin Vanderford was able to stay comfortable in that fight. He did fight on the Contender Series here back in 2018. That was a fight where he showed a little grit. Maybe he was a little hurt at the end of round one, but he got a nice rear naked choke in the middle of the fight, smack dab in the middle against Angel Trevino. But yeah, in general, a guy who's done very well, never been defeated, and then ran into a wall in Musasi and Aaron Jeffrey. Again, despite those being forgivable losses, I still didn't like the way he looked, and I want to see how he bounces back. And he's no spring chicken. He's a guy who's about to turn 35, which I believe Veretetnikov is 35. But Veretetnikov, on the flip side, this guy has bona fide grit. We've seen him lose twice at the UFC level here against Michael Morales and against Danny Barlow, who's still going undefeated. And Morales, obviously, is doing very fucking well. I don't know what he's ranked or whatever, but he's kicking ass and taking names. And he was able to stand up against both of those guys. And I think Veretetnikov, he'll be really tough to finish here. I think Austin Vanderford will have to slow the fight to a crawl and try to just rack up rack up control time there. But I don't think he's going to be able to handle being the nail, especially as the fight goes on. Even though Austin Vanderford's only been TKO'd twice, and they were both in 85 seconds. Here, with the fight being on short notice, and I have to wait to see how they weigh in, but it is at a catch weight of 175. And Austin Vanderford, that last fight he took was at 170, so it's not like he's been at 85. I'm sure was planning on coming to the UFC at 170. But regardless, both guys, they agreed to 175. I have to assume they'll make it with no issues. But I think Veretennikov being a really tough guy to get out of there and showing some hustle himself, he's a good 15-minute fighter. I think Austin Vanderford is going to slow down a bit. He's going to find himself getting chewed up, probably inside the clinch. That's where Veretennikov is a buzzsaw. But if not, of course, on the outside, I think Veretennikov is still the sharper striker. And when these guys get tired, I think that shit's going to hit the surface, those advantages. And Austin Vanderford's not going to be able to handle being the nail. I think Veretennikov wins, and he wins by TKO. Veretennikov, he's got 5 losses. Again, I mentioned the 2 of them, the Danny Barlow and Michael Morales. The other 3 losses are back over 10 years ago, all 3 of them. He got TKO'd from this Brazilian guy, and that was on the ground, where he was grounded and fatigued. The guy shucked off an armbar and then pounded him out. And then he got rear naked choked here inside a round. It can happen, and he is at a disadvantage grappling-wise against Austin Vanderford. But I do think Veretennikov, in general, is going to be tough to get out of there. These days, he's looking pretty solid. On the feet, he looks solid. And on the ground, Michael Morales got him down repeatedly. And I think on the feet, he's going to be too dangerous for Austin Vanderford. So the prediction is, even though I think he's the lesser grappler, he's able to survive down there. And on the feet, Austin Vanderford isn't able to survive. Because, again, I have doubts in him being the nail. So Veretennikov is the pick. I've got him winning by TKO. But I'm much more confident in the TKO part for Veretennikov than the money line. Because he's even right now. The fight is a toss-up. And if I wasn't so confident in the TKO, I'd be betting on his money line. But instead, I'm going to wait for the props, bet on Veretennikov by TKO. And for Austin Vanderford on the flip side, I think decision is far and away his primary path to victory. So that's what I'll bet on as a hedge, or at least what I'll look to bet on as a hedge. I have to see these props first. But yeah, that's how I see the fight. And yeah, gun to my head, I'll go with Nikolay. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.